Hey there guys, welcome. So we're continuing the trend of talking about kind of, genre defining horror movies here on the channel. And up next we have a remake of The Blob, one of the most classic horror movies ever made, The Blob. I just can't get over this. I mean, if you was to bring out a remake of The Blob in this day and age, would people actually take it seriously? It's a blob that slowly kind of overtakes a city and like engulfs people, and it's just like a big blob of ooze that just kind of consumes things. Like, I don't know if people could take it seriously, but I found it interesting. This article piqued my interest, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. Maybe some of you guys would find this interesting. So this article comes to us from Comic Flick News. Let's learn about what's going on with the remake of The Blob. So, exciting update from the Hellraiser reboot producer for the Blob remake. So that's very, very interesting just on the surface. The Hellraiser reboot producer is going to be working on the Blob remake. Again, like, when I just think of the Blob, like, I just can't take it seriously. It sounds like satire comedy in the horror genre kind of mixed together. And I'm not sure it would work in this day and age necessarily. Maybe if you inject a lot of comedy into it, it could be, but as a serious horror film, I don't know if people would be up for that. Maybe you guys will prove me wrong, you know. So, Keith Levine, the producer behind the anticipated Hellraiser reboot, has recently disclosed some thrilling updates about the remake of the cult classic film, The Blob. Reports surfaced earlier this month indicating Warner Bros. Discovery involvement in the development of the new rendition of The Blob. In an exclusive reveal to Comic Book, Levine shared tantalizing details about the forthcoming remake. Expressing his personal excitement for the project, he stated, "Well, I personally am very excited about this because another one of these My Parents Are Out movies that I'm watching at a young age is The Blob, which we're doing at Warner Bros. Also with Hellraiser director David Bruckner. The Chuck Russell movie, just as a kid, it effed me up big time." Yeah, as you can see, we got some pictures down here as well. I can understand why watching this as a kid, back when it came out, it could be a bit traumatizing because some of the imagery is quite like out there. So this is one of the Blob. I believe this is the Blob remake. I don't think this is the original. Scream Now While You Can Still Breathe. 35mm print screening of the Blob. And this is an image here. It looks like someone's being consumed by this kind of alien-like blob. And yeah, I think it just kind of like takes over your body and then it kind of just melts you from the outside inwards. I haven't seen The Blob myself, I have to admit. Maybe it's something I'm going to check out after reading this. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. The Blob, every time I've heard about the Blob movie, it's just not something I'm just like, yeah, whatever. It's, you know, I don't know why I'd want to watch it, but it's kind of piqued my interest, I guess, a little bit. So Keith Levine, the producer spearheading the Hellraiser reboot, took a moment to reflect on the enduring impact of the original film, The Blob. Recalling a particularly chilling scene, Levine shared, "There's this movie theater scene towards the end of it, where these kids sneak out and they go to the movies and then they get killed by the Blob. I think that was the first time I had seen kids my age die." The thing is, though, the Blob is like a very slow-moving thing. From what I remember from clips, like seeing clips of it, it moves very slowly and like overtakes the town. You could easily just get in your car and just drive away from it. Or you could just outpace it by walking away from it. It was like one of the premier kind of like horror-defining movies way back then in the early stages of Hollywood. And I kind of get why it was all the rage back then. But like I say, I don't know if it would work in today's kind of modern audiences. People probably wouldn't take it too seriously. So, emphasizing his comment to preserving the essence of the beloved classic, Levine expressed his excitement about the remake, stating, "So very excited to dive into that world and honor the practical effects, the tactile feel of it. We're just excited about all the possibilities there." With director David Bruckner, renowned for his work on Hellraiser, at the helm, the remake of The Blob promises to be seemingly blend nostalgia with modern cinematic techniques. So, how many remakes of The Blob have there been? I believe there's the original, and then there's a remake in the 80s, I believe. So since its debut in 58, featuring Steve McQueen, The Blob left an indelible mark on cinema. Its legacy includes sequels and remakes that have kept audiences enthralled over the years. In 1972, Beware the Blob, directed by Larry Hagman, starring Robert Walker Jr. and Carol Lindley, offered a chilling continuation of the original narrative. So it came out originally in 1958, which is crazy. 1958. Almost around the same time the original Godzilla came out. That was like when Hollywood was in its infancy, and like all of these major genre defining movies came out, and all of the movies up until recent times have kind of been defined by what came in that period. You know, that back in the 50s and 60s, it laid the groundwork for what Hollywood's become, which is quite cool. So, obviously there was one in 1972. Then in 1988, director Chuck Russell brought the Blob back to the big screen with a remake starring Kevin Dillon and Shawnee Smith, introducing a new generation to the terror of the gelatinous menace. So the saga of remakes continued with an announcement of a 2009 of another remake, with Rob Zombie initially attached to the project. However, after Zombie's departure, directorial duties were passed to Simon West. Despite initial plans, recent updates on the progress of this project have been scarce, leading to the reports of its cancellation. So the Blob's journey through multiple iterations reflects its enduring appeal and the ongoing fascination with its terrifying premise. I mean, just looking at this image here, it just looks like a big pile of jam almost, you know. I think if you do this movie, okay, let's be serious for a second, right? If you're gonna actually put a lot of time and effort, money and resources into this movie, you have to put a lot of comedy into it. And you have to go this, you know, the satirical kind of inside baseball horror genre with it. And there's no way you could do a serious version of this movie because it's just ridiculous. A blob slowly, overtaking a town and eating people. It's just stupid. But you have to do a comedy version, like a really funny version that's going to have some killer jokes, some funny satire in it, and then have some kind of fun Easter eggs that harken back to that original 50s version. Maybe have a scene that kind of replicates that 50s movie, but then kind of, you know, add some comedy, add some modern nuances in it. I think you could do a good job, but you can't go the serious route with that. I just don't think it would work, in my opinion. Maybe you guys think differently, but I don't think you could take this movie seriously. In the annals of science fiction horror, few films have left as lasting an impression as The Blob. Recently, released in 1958, this cult classic follows the harrowing tale of a gelatinous alien creature crashing to Earth, setting off a nightmarish chain of events. As the titular Blob devours everything in its path, including unsuspecting victims, a young teenager named Steve Andrews becomes acutely aware of the impending danger. Despite his desperate attempts to warn the townsfolk, his pleas fall on deaf ears, met with skepticism and disbelief. Yeah, well, if I was to live in a town or a small city, I guess I kind of do at the moment, but, you know, if someone came running up to you and said, "You have to run, there's a giant blob coming after us," you'd be like, "What? Get out of here." Like, you wouldn't believe someone if they ran up to you and told you there was a blob that was about to devour you or the town or whatever, yeah. And, yeah, you would just write them off as being crazy, you know, whatever. Where are we? So, however, the horrifying reality of the Blob's present becomes undeniable, panic grips the town, and time begins to run out. Now Steve and the belligerent townsfolk must band together to confront the monstrous threat before it consumes everything in its path. With its gripping narrative, spine-tingling suspense, and groundbreaking special effects, The Blob remains a timeless masterpiece of the sci-fi horror genre, captivating audiences for generations to come. So yeah, this isn't the only classic kind of sci-fi horror movie that they're remaking. They're also remaking the 50-Foot Woman as well. I think it's called the 50-Foot Woman. I believe that came out in either the late 50s, early 60s, around that period as well. So, you know, they're trying to reinvent other sci-fi sort of horror movies in the same kind of sphere as well as this Blob movie. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with these movies. But like I said, I feel that you should inject a lot of comedy, make it funny, but kind of have that sci-fi epic, kind of harken back to the original, and just make it fun. Don't make it too serious. Don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it. Make it funny. And I think you could do a great movie. Almost like Mars Attacks. You know how that kind of satirical Martian sci-fi movie where the Martians come and attack people, and it's kind of really funny and it's ridiculous and over the top. Do something like that, but do it with the Blob. I think you could have a winner if you did something like that. But that's just my opinion. But guys, jump into the comment section. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think about a remake of the 1958 Blob movie. Like me, do you think they should go the comedy route? Do you think they should make it serious? Do you have any interest in a, the Blob remake? Let me know your thoughts, comments, and opinions. Can't wait to see what you have to say about this, because the Blob just sounds ridiculous. But as always, guys, I will see you in the next one.